Okay, on to the very last Skip the Line reaction for this week, man. Thank you to everybody who supports the channel. Thank you to everybody who requested the Skip the Line reactions. I really appreciate it, man. We had 22 this week, man. So you guys were really loving that $9 special, man. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. You guys came through thick. And yeah, man, we're going to do a whole new set next week. I will open up the form again. I'll let you guys know on the Fable community when that's all going to happen. But yeah, man, let's get this last one done. This is Hurts Redemption. Now, I have heard Hurts. I've heard Hurts before. I have heard of Hurts before. They are pretty good. I think I've done one or two of their tracks. The reason why I'm putting a copyright watermark on the actual video is because I have had my videos blocked before. But based on the video, not the actual song itself. So just bear with me. I'm just going to put a copyright watermark on the video. There is a message, and this is from Vanessa. Thank you very much for the Skip the Line reaction. I really appreciate the support. And your message is, Hurts is a very underrated British pop duo. This song is from their most recent album, Faith, from 2020, and it was written during a personal crisis. I most certainly have not heard this track before, so I'm very, very intrigued. I do like their stuff, man. If I remember correctly, they have had, I mean, they've had some very popular ones as well, if I'm not mistaken, but I've never heard this. I haven't even heard their new stuff either, so I've only heard the very old stuff. But let's rock and roll, man. Vanessa, thanks once again. Let's go. Hurts Redemption, let's go.
I've never felt this far from God. I almost feel like giving up again. In my bones, in my blood, there's a sickness I'd change if I could. But the fire that rages inside me erased all the good. Father, help me, do you understand? All my life I've been a wicked man. Show me mercy and comfort me. I need to find redemption. I'm just trying to find some redemption.
Look, if you're going to find redemption, this is probably the way to do it, right? Is to actually put it in your art. That's the way to do it, because it's kind of like looking yourself honestly, right? It's sort of sitting up in the middle of the night and be like, let me introspect on the worst aspects of myself, and what you'll find is going to be somewhat terrifying, right? If you really honestly look at yourself, if you really honestly look at who you are and the things you do that are wrong, that are evil, that you know, everybody knows you have a conscience, you know what that is, right? And you look at yourself honestly, you will terrify yourself, right? But you need to do that. We need to do that as human beings, because that's how you get to the so-called redemption, essentially. So he's obviously calling to a deity to a certain degree and saying, like, listen, I need help. But by him doing that, it's not that he's going to get help from above. He's going to get help. It's his way of helping himself. It's his sort of like holding on to something that's rooted in faith, and something that's rooted in hope, that is going to give him more strength. And he said it earlier in the song where he's like, I feel like I'm almost going to give up again. It's like he's given up before, but he never really like properly gives up. He's like, okay, like I feel like I'm going to give up again. But then he sort of bounces back and is like, these are phases. This is how life works. This is the tragedy of life. These are phases you will go from. And no one of those phases should take you down. Not one of those phases should take you down. It always feels like it will, right? But none of those phases should take you down. I've had many crises on my life. And the one thing I've learned is that the majority of them never existed. Do you know what I mean? It's about staying strong. It's about keeping that head up. It's about realizing that we really are a small blip on the greater scheme of life in this universe, right? Your problems aren't as big as you think they are, right? And the best time And the best way to get your redemption, the best way to sort of get things into perspective and focus on the right things, is to look at what really matters in your life and push all the other unnecessary garbage out into the peripheries, right? And that's what happens with tragedy. When tragedy strikes, that's when you zone in, and that's the problem where people go and they chase happiness, just like, I know some of you don't like the man, but I absolutely adore the man, Jordan Peterson would say, where he says, if you focus on nothing but happiness and your internal happiness, you will be miserable consistently, because when tragedy strikes, which it will strike eventually in life, tragedy will strike, then you have nothing else, right? You haven't chased anything greater. You haven't given your life any greater meaning, and you find greater meaning in hardships, in adversity. You find greater meaning. It's when you pick up your burdens off the ground is where you find greater meaning. It's when you do your responsibilities, and you're accountable to yourself and you're accountable to others, and you understand your obligation to society. That's where you find greater meaning. If the only thing you chase in life is happiness, you will forever be miserable, because you will not be happy forever, because eventually the storms of life will come and they will knock you down. And if there's no foundation of something greater, your happiness is going to dissipate, and then you don't know where you are. You're lost in the abyss because you haven't built a foundation of something greater than yourself, right? So yeah, that's my little thing. Anyway, let's just carry on.
Redemption. I'm just trying to find some redemption. I've never been this far from peace.
I love this piano in the background, man.
I'm disappearing out of reach again. In my head, in my heart, there's a hollow that's starting to show.
Whoa.
It's the poison that fills up the void, and it's taking a hold. Father, help me, do you understand? All my life I've been a wicked man.
I love the way this is being filmed. This is absolutely brilliant, right? It's almost like the spotlight is entirely on him, right? This is the introspection globe, like literally shining on him. He's speaking about himself. He's introspecting about himself. This is spotlight, and being in the spotlight is very uncomfortable, right? It means that now, when someone puts you in the spotlight and someone sort of calls you out for something, right? You kind of feel exposed to a certain degree. So he's exposing himself in this darkness. So it can be interpreted that way, where he's trying to expose himself in the darkness, because that's how he finds his redemption, is that he needs to shine a light on himself and his true self and who he is, sins and his bad things and his good things and his good habits and his bad habits, right? Because that's the only way he's going to find the light. Right, so he needs to illuminate those aspects of his life. So that is representative of the video, right? Everything is dark, and it is just him that's being highlighted in a specific thing. Could also be seen in another way with regards to sort of like through all of this darkness, right? He is seeking his redemption, is basically trying to find this light. Right, so it could also be that way. It could be a way of like, I'm trying to find this light in all of this. So he's surrounded by darkness, and hopefully me sort of sharing and putting these words out into the universe might illuminate the rest of my space. I don't know, but the video is absolutely brilliant. I love the way it's being because it's so simple, but yet so telling as well. Let's go.
Show me mercy and comfort me. I need to find redemption. I'm just trying to find some redemption. I'm just trying to find some redemption.
I love his voice as well. I found that fire again. Really, really beautiful video. This orchestra piece is fire, man. Excuse the pun. This orchestra piece is absolutely incredible, man. Look at how it builds up. Through the painful heat of the flames, a different beast, a different phoenix shall arise. That is your redemption. Rising from the flames and leaving the ashes of the past behind. Right? Never forgetting them though, but leaving the ashes of the past behind. Let's go, man. Wow. It was quite an incredible video, I must be honest, man. I mean, the representation of the fire is obviously sort of burning the past. It's a cleansing analogy to a certain degree, where it's like you sort of cleanse yourself through the pain, through the agony, essentially. And through that, you will be reborn into a better version of yourself, a version that is more cognizant, a version that is more merciful to yourself, right? It's a really nice way of representing that. So, it could have many different meanings, but that's at least what I take from it. Also, the fire is representative of a lot of pain, right? Fire is beautiful and tragic in the same way, because it's so much energy. It's raging. It can represent love. It can represent ferocity. It can represent so many great attributes of a human being. But it also can be representative of the eroding of a human being, the burning of a soul. It's got two flip sides of that. That element is a very interesting element to play with in poetry, because you really can go wherever you want with that. And I'm pretty sure Frank will do a better job than me in the comment section at depicting what I'm trying to say here using fire. So that's a little challenge for you, Frank, right? Fire, and how it can be the greatest force of humanity, and yet also the greatest destroyer of humanity, right? Try to see if you can play with that. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.